I want to say a little bit about the Lotus Sutra. It's very important, of course, in Mahayana and Vajrayana as too. Vajrayana not directly, but many of the ideas in the Lotus Sutra are very important also for Vajrayana. It's a very long sutra. You can listen to it on YouTube if you want to, and there are English translations. If you want to do the whole thing, it will take you about 11 or 12 hours. So you can see how long it is. I think there are 28 chapters. It seems that most scholars think that it was written about produced about 500 or 600 years after the Buddha, and it didn't come about all at one time. It was developed over a period of 100 or 200 years, different parts coming together. And it's based, it's kind of constructed in the style of one of the original suttas with Ananda saying, beginning it, thus have I heard. And the locations are usually the same. Rajagya, in this case, Rajagya, near to Bodh Gaya, where the Buddha became enlightened, and he spent a lot of time. The problem with the Lotus Sutra is that it was produced so long after the Buddha disappeared from the earth. So the Theravada tradition would probably not accept it as genuine part of the canon, thinking that it was produced by monks long after he died. On the other hand, the people who support the Lotus Sutra say that the Buddha left behind secret teachings because the world wasn't ready for them, and that Nagarjuna later found them, and so the Lotus Sutra is a part of the Buddhist canon. You'll have to decide what you think for yourself. Anyway, the sutra brings up many new ideas. So there is the idea of the original suttas and the arahants only receiving the basic teachings of the Buddha because they weren't ready for the higher teachings, and that these higher teachings were hidden to come to light later, and there are various images and metaphors about this, saying that basically the Buddha gave these teachings because it was all that the people were ready for at that time. And it suggests, or it doesn't suggest, it says that the arahants in the Theravada tradition actually did not become fully enlightened. They thought they did, but really they only became bodhisattvas. So the bodhisattva ideal is another thing that's new in the Lotus Sutra, the idea that people hold off from becoming Buddhas out of compassion. They want to keep coming back to the conditioned realm until all creatures have achieved salvation or enlightenment. So that creates the idea that maybe the Theravadins are a bit selfish. They're not really interested in the enlightenment of all sentient beings before they find enlightenment for themselves. Some of the language in the Lotus Sutra about the what they call the Hinayana teachings can be a little, what's the word? A little offhand. I was going to say insulting, but it's not perhaps insulting, but they are definitely given a lower status, and now we have the higher ideals of the Bodhisattva and Buddha nature. So to become fully enlightened, now you have to realize your Buddha nature. Everybody can become a Buddha. This is completely different in the Theravada tradition. Buddhas are very, very rare, and not everybody has a Buddha nature. Everybody can become enlightened, but that's different. Also in Theravada, a bodhisattva, there is only one. A bodhisattva is somebody who is waiting in another realm to be the next Buddha. So right now, there is Maitreya. They say he is waiting in the Tushita heaven, and later he will become the next Buddha. But in the new Mahayana tradition, everybody can become a Buddha, and that's really how you find enlightenment, by realizing your Buddha nature. In the Lotus Sutra, you have the first reference to Avalokiteshvara and the Bodhisattva he is a Bodhisattva who will save everybody before becoming enlightened himself. And later, of course, there are variations on Avalokiteshvara, such as in the Chinese world, female Avalokiteshvara, Guan Yin, I think. And also in the Lotus Sutra, the idea comes up for the first time of the Pure Lands, that the Bodhisattvas or Buddhas may have their own particular land which people from the human realm can occupy in certain circumstances. Probably people from the Theravada tradition would say that this is based on a Theravada idea, Theravada cosmology, where there are certain places for anagamis, the non-returners, who will complete their journey to enlightenment in that realm without ever coming back to the Kama Loka, the place where you make karma. So we can see that the Lotus Sutra is very important for the Mahayana and Vajrayana schools, but its really status is kind of non-existent in the Theravada tradition, because they think that it was a deviation, basically. It's something that monks created long after the Buddha achieved reached his parinirvana. It's incredibly important, as I say, in the Eastern world and in the Mahayana tradition, with many of these ideas like the Bodhisattva ideal, Buddha nature, the putting of Theravada practices at a lower level, and also the elevation of the Buddha into a kind of godlike figure that can be worshipped in the Theravada tradition. The Buddha is a teacher who can teach you how to reach Nibbana. But it's not suggested that he can get there for you. You have to do it yourself. He can give you the instructions how to go. But maybe by the time the Lotus Sutra, the Buddha has become almost like a god, and he is surrounded by multitudes of bodhisattvas and Buddhas and spiritual beings in a setting that can only be called cosmic. It seems that probably the Lotus Sutra was originally composed in some kind of dialect of Sanskrit, like Pali, and then later translated into Sanskrit to give it greater veracity. But we have it really from Chinese translations, which have been translated back into Sanskrit. But the earliest forms of the Lotus Sutra we don't have. So that's an introduction to the Lotus Sutra. It's sometimes very beautiful, and the verse sections are very memorable. Like the suttas, it can be very repetitive sometimes, and that's partly based on the fact that it was probably orally transmitted for a long time. Um, so you take what you want from that, and I will only just say that the Lotus Sutra is very important for the Mahayana Vajrayana tradition, but unimportant for the Theravada tradition. Of course, for some forms of Buddhism, like Nichiren Buddhism, the Soka Gokkai, it's fundamental. They keep chanting this all the time. Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. I believe in the Lotus Sutra, and it's the most important thing in their Buddhism. So I hope that was useful, and see you next time. Thanks.